We're seeing the effects of things like the global skills shortage, as well as these increased attacks and things happening. So there was a study brought out recently, the Digital Quality of Life, and we look at where South Africa ranks in here. We're about 85th out of 110 countries when it comes to electronic security, and we drop even further to 95th for cybersecurity. I think we are seeing cybersecurity, privacy getting much more budget, as well as a seat at the executive table. And we need to take advantage of that seat at the table because cybersecurity, privacy, very, very important to a business. We just have to look at the marketing approaches of the likes of Apple and Microsoft, where trust is the marketplace that we are currently in.
For South African organizations as a whole and individually, there are probably a myriad of reasons this growth rate is so high. But I'd like to touch on just 2 reasons that are affecting the growth rate globally and that probably extend to South Africa as well. One is the effect of remote work. We know from the latest cost of a data breach report that remote work is affecting the cost of a breach. And in fact, the percentage of a workforce that is remote is generally associated with a higher data breach cost. And then a second factor pushing up the cost of a data breach is the attack lifecycle, or the amount of time it takes to both detect and respond to a breach. And where these processes are taking longer, we are seeing this push up the cost of a data breach. So zero trust is really a mindset where you assume a breach has already happened, and therefore you implement very robust identity and access mechanisms for every user and device. Zero trust decreases the blast radius for an attack. So attackers are able to reach fewer systems, do less damage, steal less data, or encrypt fewer resources.
In the absence of a very structured top-down approach that says this specific table in this database has to be protected. Let's call it payroll. Those are the easier ones where it's a bit more easily determined as critical data. But for the rest of it, we can look at business operations and then see what could impede business as usual if a given 2 or 3 systems were compromised or affected. So the ticketing system, that could be a good start as well.
Having a response plan. So if something does happen to the data, how do I respond? How do I understand which records were affected? And these are the principles, that we see with GDPR as well. So POPIA and GDPR are very similar in how we achieve them. They're both trying to achieve the same thing. However, the data that's affected is different. We have data which is very specific to our country and our citizens. Things like tax numbers, ID numbers are very different to the EU. And so we have to adapt that GDPR scenario to maybe South Africa.
A big thank you to our sponsor, IBM, and for ITWeb for setting this up for us. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next event. Have a fantastic day further.